Andor? More like, please sir, may I have some more? Cause I'd like some more of this show. Please. So Andor is the latest piece of Star Wars media to come out, and it's also the best. But also, arguably the worst. It's weird, we'll get into it, but all you need to know right now is that as a piece of war fiction, Andor is a masterpiece. And I know what you're probably thinking. Oh god, is this one of those pretentious video essayists who thinks that just because a movie's boring, it automatically makes it mature? Look, the first video I uploaded onto this page is titled, I Miss Edgy Video Games. Okay, I'm very much aware of the value of hype. But yes, Andor's a slow burn. Like, one of the slowest burns I've ever seen. Like, such a slow burn that if you walked into the woods with nothing but the clothes on your back and a copy of Andor, you'd be able to keep warm for days. But its characters are also relatable and thoroughly fleshed out. Its themes are mature and complex. Its tone is oppressive and consistent. My god, Disney finally made something with a consistent tone. No stupid quips to destroy tense scenes, no cowardly backpedaling after mature moments. This is a show about a rebellion that's dense with philosophical dialogue, morally gray characters, and a plot directly aimed towards adults. And in that, the show itself actually feels rebellious. Towards Disney. This show feels like it was created by somebody that loves the Star Wars IP, but is sick of the way it's been treated. Like Tony Gilroy took the reins away from Disney and said, "You think you're writing about war? No. I'll show you war." And like any rebellion, it comes with consequences. Because nobody's watching this damn show. It's funny that this show about people trying to gather followers for their cause has mass critical acclaim, but is struggling to garner a massive audience. Like, I know they didn't intend for this show to be this meta, but my god, what cosmic irony. Look, Andor had a lot going against it. Like, if we're being honest, the fact that Andor is underperforming audience-wise is Tony Gilroy's own damn fault. Oh, let's make a prequel to an already unnecessary prequel, starring a character nobody remembers or grew attached to. And instead of making it a fun action space romp like the rest of the shows in our children's series, let's make it a slow burn political drama. Yeah, Tony, I wonder why the Star Wars fans aren't coming in droves to see this one. Honestly, if my Star Wars fanatic roommate wasn't constantly hyping this show up to me every day, I probably wouldn't have made it past the second episode. But thank God I did, because after that slow introduction to this world and its characters, the show proves itself to be an intense, emotional, and thoroughly honest depiction of war. I'm honestly surprised that this show is called Andor, because even though Cassian Andor is the protagonist, I'd argue he really isn't the focus. The real focus is the war between the Empire and the Rebels. I guess it kinda does make sense considering the name Star Wars Rebels was taken. Oh, but Danny, isn't that always the focus? It's called Star Wars after all. Yeah, I know, but this is different. Andor is a deconstruction of war and its effects on everyone involved. I've seen every Star Wars show and movie out there, but this is the first time that I've really felt the oppressive nature of the Empire. Nobody can trust anyone in this show. Every conversation is laced with fear. Building a rebellion relies entirely upon rallying people to your cause. But how are you supposed to do that when talking openly against the Empire is akin to suicide? Every decision these characters make, whether it be to attack an Imperial garrison, or just have an open conversation with a stranger, feels equal parts dangerous and desperate. Everyone's unsure and terrified of their own actions. And even though we know the rebels end up winning, it feels like the rebellion is constantly on the verge of collapse. It feels fragile. You get the sense that if just one piece falls out of place, if just one person pulls their resources out of this fight, it'll cause the whole rebellion to implode on itself. Civilians keep dying. The Empire keeps tightening its grip in retaliation against the rebels' actions. Nobody knows if what they're doing is actually worth it, especially considering that all of these characters know that even if the rebellion wins, they probably won't be alive to see it happen. They're planting seeds for a future that only might blossom but is guaranteed to cause suffering now. It's so engaging to see these characters struggle with their own convictions, and so inspiring to see what they sacrifice for them. It feels like we're actually watching a group of desperate insurrectionists take on a force far greater than them, rather than watching good guys fight the bad guys. And that's because the show spends so much time humanizing the Empire and bloodying the hands of the rebels. I know this is kind of an overused buzz phrase at this point, but this really is a show full of gray characters. At one point, Cassian and his crew hold an AK-47 to the back of a child's head, fully ready to pull the trigger. And honestly, I'm only like 30% kidding. Meanwhile, the show gives us Imperial soldiers at their most human. We see them panic as they desperately struggle to maintain maintain order and survive during rebel attacks. We see their relationships with their families, see them struggle and persevere. There are no two-dimensional villains. Everyone in the Empire truly believes they're acting in the galaxy's best interest. This script is filled with so many tiny glimpses of humanity that you don't see in a lot of other Disney shows. Casual conversations between strangers on a train, awkward small talk between a husband and wife who have grown estranged, bursts of vulnerability from otherwise emotionally closed-off characters. Yeah, Andor is a bit of a slow burn plot-wise, but it's these small moments when we see characters interacting with their families and living their daily lives that makes them feel more human than any character ever has in a Star Wars property. What's so unique about Andor is that not only do you get to see how a rebellion takes shape, but you also get to see why it takes so much effort and courage to start one. This isn't just charismatic characters going on adventures. There are real stakes and severe consequences to opposing the Empire, and this show explores all of them. As a viewer watching at home, sitting in the comfort of your living room, not living under the oppressive force of a Nazi regime, it's easy to be like, come on, just fight the space Nazis, go join the rebellion. But anytime Cassian tries to defy the Empire, innocent people are always affected. Civilians die in the crossfire, prison sentencings get increased. There are people who have managed to carve out a small sliver of safety for themselves under the Empire's rule, and it's easy to see how difficult it would be for them to let that go. There's a prisoner named Kino who's managed to earn himself a high reputation within an Imperial prison. Cassian keeps trying to get Kino to help him escape, but Kino would rather wait out his sentence. The Empire provides him with food, shelter, and generally leaves him alone so long as he follows the rules. Kino is complicit in the Empire's oppression, but he isn't depicted as cowardly or evil for valuing his cellmate's safety. The Empire is an overwhelming force, and defying it would almost certainly be suicide. This is such a realistic look at how tyrannical governments indoctrinate their people. They let them hold on to some small sense of security, and make sure that they know that there are far, far worse alternatives. Every time a new Star Wars show comes out, people love being like, this one's gonna be Star Wars at its darkest. But usually when they say that, it just means that it's gonna be a little more violent than usual. Andor's maturity doesn't come from the fact that characters swear or that it's a little more violent than other Star Wars shows. It comes from its insistence that everyone, whether on the side of light or darkness, is capable of both good and evil actions. And the fact that it makes you decide whether or not you're gonna judge these characters based on their actions or their intentions. Now earlier I said that Andor is both the best and worst piece of Star Wars media out right now. And by that I mean that while I think Andor is genuinely a great show, I'm really not sure if it's a great Star Wars show. I've been thinking about Andor every day since I first started it, and I'm desperate to see more of these characters. But I'm not necessarily desperate to see more of this world, because I know that most Star Wars isn't like this. So watching Andor doesn't make me excited to branch out and rewatch shows like The Mandalorian, because I know it's nothing like this. This show doesn't get me excited for more Star Wars, it gets me excited for more Andor. And honestly, it makes shows like Obi-Wan and The Mandalorian seem worse in retrospect. So even though I love this show and I love the Star Wars universe, if you told me that this was too slow for you or it didn't give you what you wanted out of a Star Wars property, I couldn't really argue. Which sucks, because on one hand, I wish more live-action Star Wars was like this. I wish it was taken as seriously as an HBO political drama. But on the other hand, so many people love the adventurous, lighthearted side of Star Wars, so who am I to say it should change? Regardless, if any of what I said sounded even vaguely interesting to you, please go check out Andor. Struggle through the first 2 episodes, get to episode 3, and then you'll see just how nuanced and well-written this show is. And if you guys like this video, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel, struggle through a few of the videos, and then you'll see just how nuanced and well-written my content is. And while you're at it, let me know in the comments what other shows, movies, or games you want to see me cover in the future. And I will see you guys next time.
But now I always seem to freeze.